Howdy y'all, I'm Travis coming at you live, well actually I guess pre-recorded from Toronto, Ontario. So sorry I couldn't be there live, but it's moving day for me today. But I'm going to be cooking and sharing with y'all a big piece of my cultural heritage from South Texas, San Antonio. We're going to be making breakfast tacos. So I've got all the ingredients prepped here. You should have the ingredient list ahead of time. You'll see here, important thing is getting everything ready to go. I'm going to tell you about the meaning of this food to me as we cook, but first let's get started for the sake of time. So if you'll join me over here, got some butter on a little over medium. I'm going to start in my pan with onions. I'm going to get these onions going just for a minute or two. Get the aromatics going, you'll start to see through them a little bit. This pan here is going to be the only thing we're going to use to cook with today. I call this big pan cooking. So all the flavors that we cook, everything in here is all going to stay in the pan and then come out into the final product. So I like to think of this as a metaphor of where I'm from, San Antonio, Texas. It's a big pan of cultures. First of all, the city has a history. It used to be a part of Spain, Mexico, maybe France, I'm not sure, but a lot of different cultures there. The city is actually primarily Spanish speaking. So there's a lot of that Mexican culture there. And so what we're going to be cooking is very much Mexican culture, but then there's some like Tex-Mex vibes mixed into it. You'll see that. I'll probably catch a lot of flack for using flour tortillas. That's what we do in San Antonio, Texas. That's the melding of cultures. So I've got my onions going here. They're almost ready. We'll take a look here. Once the onions are ready, we're going to add the chorizo. Chorizo typically comes in like a sausage link. And what I did is I just cut the sausage casing off, and you'll see here, I've actually got the meat like broken up and sort of out there. I want it because it'll cook differently. It'll blend in better than like chops of a link or whatever. So it's almost like ground chorizo meat. So you'll see I've got a little bit of color coming on the onions now. So that's good. That's where I want them. I'm gonna add in the chorizo. And the onions and the chorizo serve one purpose here. They're gonna add flavor to the dish. So some of the different things we'll be adding will have different value to the ultimate dish, but this is flavor. So we're starting at the beginning, we're cooking them down together, get that flavor real nice and good. Chorizo, it's a spiced Spanish sausage originally. It's got a really distinct flavor and smell, and like the smell for me just unlocks memories of my childhood. Particularly camping with my dad. Whenever we went camping, he would always cook chorizo and eggs for breakfast. So we've got this chorizo going. So it's gonna cook for probably about 5 to 6 minutes. Want to make sure that chorizo is pork, so don't want to take any chances. Cook it nicely. But ultimately, it's gonna make the base of a breakfast taco. So breakfast taco is a very San Antonio, South Texas, you may think of Austin, tradition. The history of it is, it's a long battle between San Antonio and Austin. It was officially invented in San Antonio. I think it was invented sometime in the 1920s, and it was construction workers that wanted their like typical Mexican breakfast, like chorizo, eggs, salsa and stuff, but needed it on the go. So they wrapped it up in a flour tortilla, and it's become a huge part of San Antonio culture. To be honest, I didn't make breakfast tacos much when I was in San Antonio. I have these memories of you go and buy a big bag of breakfast tacos. So if there's like 3 people, you'll maybe get like 10 tacos, and you dump them all out, and they're wrapped in aluminum foil, and it's like almost better than Christmas, like unwrapping all of these little taco presents and finding out which one's like, oh, I got the chorizo and eggs, oh, I got the bean and cheese. It's like a really fun tradition, but up here where I'm in Ontario, there's certainly no breakfast tacos. In New York, where I spend a lot of my time, they're hard to find, so I had to perfect sort of making them here. So if you'll take a look at the pan right now, you'll see the color of that chorizo is really bleeding into the onions. We're almost good to go here. Not quite. This wasn't in the recipe list, but I had some handy. I had some spinach. You can add whatever else you want to this. Like you might like garlic. If you're adding garlic, now would be a good time. I'm just gonna add some spinach. We can call it a vegetable. We could say we had a healthy breakfast. So I'm just gonna add the spinach and let it cook down a little bit with this. So the spinach will wilt pretty quickly here. The chorizo, once it starts to like get brown all the way through and particularly on the edges, you'll know it's ready. But rule of thumb, just give it like at least 6 minutes, maybe 6 to 8 minutes. And I'm just gonna keep stirring it here. Now, eventually, and you just stay there looking at that. Eventually we're gonna take this out of the pan. And that's when we get to the eggs part. And what I found through trial and error is if you add the eggs on top of the ingredients, they don't cook very well. They get kind of weird. Like, eggs are, the texture can be hit or miss. So I like to take everything out of the pan, cook the eggs, and add everything back in. So that's what we'll be doing. I'll give a shout out to some of the best taco places. If you're ever in San Antonio, Texas, the best on the planet is called the Original Donut Shop. Super confusing. They sell donuts, but it's actually primarily known for their tacos. They have a drive-through. They've got 2 drive-through lanes, one for donuts, one for tacos. But it's super authentic. They do really good chorizo and eggs, really good country sausage and eggs. It's about 20 minutes from where my family lives in San Antonio, but I always make the journey out there because it's so good. We also have, there's probably as many of them as there are McDonald's, a place called Taco Cabana, 24-hour breakfast taco drive-through. To die for. A little off-menu item, you get the chips and queso, but you ask for tortillas instead of chips. It takes me back, but one of the cool things that I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot more Tex-Mex and Mexican food make it not only to the US, but I've been noticing quite a bit up here in Canada. So food's jumping the border twice to get here, but that's because it's so good. So you'll see here the spinach is cooked down. The chorizo got nice dark kind of brownish color to it. We're good to go. So like I said, I'm gonna take these out. If there's any grease or anything, I'm gonna try and leave it in the pan. All the flavors are gonna stay with that grease, and when we cook the eggs, it will get into the eggs. So I've got my heat on a little above medium. I'm actually gonna drop it down here. It's a little secret I learned from someone who's a much better chef than I. I used to do the eggs on high. Certainly fine to do if you've got the time. We'll see how long this takes to cook. I may actually edit some of this out. A little secret. But the secret is low and slow to get your eggs right. So just giving it a second here, taking the pan off so some of that heat can dissipate. Gonna add some butter. You can add whatever cooking fat you like. I'm from Texas, so it's like I said, it used to be a part of Mexico. It's also kind of a part of the South, so like butter is absolutely king here. So I got that butter, again taking it off, let some of that heat dissipate. And I think we're doing okay here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the eggs. Add them in, yes. So you don't hear any sizzle, that's good. That means the heat is right. And what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna sort of let the eggs sit, and every once in a while, this is the term that the chef used. I don't know exactly what this means. We're gonna agitate the eggs. So just sort of give them a little stir every once in a while, but we don't need to over stir them. And you can see the eggs are immediately starting to congeal. So I probably did a little bit of too much heat, but that's okay. So just give it a little stir, make sure not too much on the bottom of the pan burns. They're cooking pretty quickly. Eventually, we're going to add this back in, and then we have important ingredient, the cheese. So I said the chorizo and onions are for flavor. The spinach is honestly just for health. And the cheese adds texture. I'll add the cheese like sort of towards the end so that we get like a really like cheesy, like gooey egg mixture here. See, the eggs are starting to congeal. They're still a little wet. You wouldn't really want to eat them yet. So this is where I'm gonna add the cheese in. So add that cheese. I'm just gonna take these tortillas off, just dump it in. And I'm going to stir. So I'm gonna keep it stirring for no reason other than I don't want the cheese to like melt on the pan and then it's a pain to clean. So we're almost finished. Gonna add everything back in and just let it all sort of cook together for about a minute until those eggs are to your liking. I feel like eggs are kind of like steak in that everyone has their own way to sort of eat it with their own temperature that they eat it at. You'll see that cheese is all melty and sticking on the spatula. That's a good sign. That means we're doing well with our eggs here. So they're all cooked together. Like I said, it's like a steak. You all have your different temperature. I think there's absolutely a right answer. They should be a little loose, still a little wet. I don't want them too dry, but listen, to each their own. I'm not gonna criticize. So I'm taking them off. We're basically finished here. What I'm gonna do is the very important piece here is the tortillas. So I'm in Ontario. Didn't have very good options for tortillas and I looked hard. Especially flour tortillas. I guess that is very much a Tex-Mex thing. But first of all, get good tortillas. I failed on that. But second of all, always serve your tortillas warm. That's like the biggest secret. So I cranked up the heat on this pan. Again, big pan. There's still, like, look at this. There's still a lot of grease and like leftover ingredients and stuff in there. I'm gonna use all that to flavor and heat the tortillas. So we'll cook these just for like about a minute. And then as we're doing that, we'll prep the plate where we're actually gonna build our first taco. So I'll build the first taco, show you how to do it, and then I'll leave you be to enjoy your own tacos and enjoy the rest of the great content we have here. Got a little extra cheese, can't ever let that go to waste. So garnish, you can do a lot of different things. I've got some salsa here. Again, good salsa is super important. Tricky here. Do not tell my mom this, but the salsa was made in Ontario. Preferably I would like a salsa made in Texas or probably even Mexico, but you know, you gotta make do. So tortilla's hot. You see a bubble in the tortilla? It's a good sign. There's a little bubble there. It might be hard to see, but that's a good sign. So I'm gonna turn off my heat. Move this to the side. Then I'm gonna put the side that was up, down. That's really important because when we fold the tortilla, we don't wanna get this like grease and junk all over our hands. So we just take whatever portion is going in the taco, get it like that. Now with garnish, I said, you know, I've got salsa here. You could add avocados. You could add hot sauce. If that's your thing, that's certainly something I've done before. You know, whatever you want, really. I'm not gonna judge you. This is all about adding your own culture, your own spice. If you're in Canada, you might be adding some poutine to the top of this. I don't know, do you? Those in California. California is big on the avocado vibe. They do burritos though, so this is a taco. We got our eggs, our chorizo, our onions, all our spinach, all cooked in one pan. All the flavors, just like in San Antonio, what brought this together, all the cultures melded together. Then you can either do the classic, like just fold and hang, or you can kind of roll it up, whatever your preference is. I like to get messy. I'm gonna get in here, make sure with that first bite, it has some of the ingredients in there, great. That's good. That's really good. That tastes like my childhood. I'm gonna enjoy this. So you guys enjoy the rest of the content here. The team works super hard to bring some of the best of our cultures. Tell me how you like the tacos. Tell me if you did anything different yourself. But have a great rest of the day, y'all. I'll see you soon.